So this is the famous Laskil Chabina. Yes, the Aleph, the classic Laskil Chabina, which is the source of the Inyan of B'tachan. That means it's written in Chayes Halvavis. This B'tachan that's being described over here. But in Chassidus, this is the source of it, Laskil Chabina. And in Maimonides Chassidus, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's Maimorim from a lot of Rabbeim. You have it from the Rebbe Rashab, from Friedrich and from the Rebbe Rashab and Ayin Zayin, from Friedrich and Rebbe Pevov, and from the Rebbe also Mustama. Well, the Zochar Saramashkim as Yosef Vayishkocheu. So the Rebbe over there talks about even B'tachan. This is a Maimer about B'tachan. And when we learned the Ger Zakedesh test, the Rebbe said the discussion of the Ger Zakedesh test is very similar to the discussion of the Zakedesh in Aleph, although the test did not hurt as much as the Aleph was going to punch us. Because the Ger Zakedesh test, the Rebbe said one simple Nakudah. Is there separation between your Gashmis and your Avedis Hashem? If there is, it's even Avedis Zarah. If there's no separation between Gashmis and Avedis Hashem, even when you're spending money on yourself, you're not spending money on yourself because you earned it. You're spending money on yourself because it's Avedis Hashem. And since the money you're spending on yourself is even Avedis Hashem, somehow you spend it differently. This Igeres HaKedesh, I don't know if it's connected directly to tzedakah, because there's no mention of tzedakah. Although, judging from past performance, it's somehow connected to tzedakah as well. But there's two things I can tell you about this letter, without knowing anything. Number one, it was written to a big chassan. Because otherwise, Al Rebbe would not speak so critically to him. It's a very sharp brief. And number two, he had big tzaras. Such big tzaras that he was absolutely crushed by them. And he wrote to the Alter Rebbe a letter upon him complaining about his tzaras, and Alter Rebbe had to give him a chelik. Instead of telling him, I feel your pain, Alter Rebbe put out my rein, where's your betachan in the moon and the Eibishter? And a Rebbe could say it. Somebody else says it. He's a achsa. The Rebbe says it, he loves you. And he's telling it to you about his emes. And and so on. So he does tzaddis. And Alter Rebbe is telling you to mechazek your betachan. First of all, this is what the Eibishter wants, this is what the Eibishter wants. And of course the punchline, the conclusion of the Igeres HaKedesh is going to be that when a person is maftiach in Tuvish HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you see Ra, it looks like to us, me and you, Ra, Yered Mamayla, it becomes good, negative, nigla. So it's mamish, when I learned this Igeres HaKedesh the first time as a young boy, someone told me to learn it. So I read it, it was very depressing. Guy has tzadis, you come to him to complain and he bowls you out, My counsel kicked me out of the bunk. So you go to that counsel to complain. What did you do? So he puts you another knas. You have problems with neighbors and you come to the Alter Rebbe, gives you nachamo. But Alter Rebbe gets that koyach. When Alter Rebbe is mechazak, he gets betachan, he's not hurting him. It's full of ahava, and the chassid knows it, and he's heptuf. It's get koyach. I told you this many times, that Rabbi Metzger told me, that a woman says to him, that she once told the Rebbe, in Yechidus, I have many problems. And the Rebbe says to her, you have no problems. Only challenges. You have no problems, only challenges. Look, the Rebbe, I want to teach you wisdom, understanding. This is not the correct road. That yish gein eir avaya. If you want the Eibush just like the rest, if you want to be a ruchnizik person, you want to have what amounts to a certain bechina of closeness to Hashem, from Ruach HaKedesh, it cannot be if Leyes Chafes, a person desires B'chaye B'sarim physical life, Ubanu Mazayna, and children and Parnas. In other words, if you insist on having this Begashmis, that Begashmis, I guess you're entitled to Alter Rebbe, but then you can't be a Bechassid who wants to have Gili Alakus. Omer Razal, the Mishnah says about this also, put aside your Ratzin, even for in Yonim which are necessary. And so forth. In other words, she had attained a bottle b'metzias. One's will should be totally nullified. She should have no desire whatsoever in matters of this world, all of them, except for the Eibishter, which are included in children, in health, and in parnasa. It says in the Mishnah, we don't live by choice; we live because we have to. Because we live not by choice, but because we have to, we live in a way that it's not about life, it's about what we do with the life. But the Rebbe says in the Sichas, the only reason we need Vana Chayim Mezena is to serve the Eibush and not to serve ourselves. So it's somehow a different ratzon, it's a different inyan. Let me explain to you what I mean, says the Alter Rebbe. That if a person wants Gashmis, it's not going to be Yishkin Eravaya. But if a person's inyan is to serve the Eibush, Batel the Teincha, even when it comes to Vana Chayim Mezena, that's a Kelef and Gilel. The explanation of this involves a discussion about what it means to believe in the Eibishter who created the world. The Hainu, and how did he create the world? Not yesh meyesh, but rather shabriya yesh meyayin. That Hashem created the world from a non-existence into an existence, from a davar ledavar, from a non-thing into a thing. Hanikra reishis chachma. That the ayin is called reishis, the beginning, which is chachma. V'hi chachmase, which is the wisdom of the Eibishter. She'ena museges l'shum nivra, which is not comprehensible to any creation because it's beyond comprehension. This creation, he bechol eis verega, every instant and every hour, shemizhavim kol abruim, that all of the creations are created, yesh meyayin, from a non-existence into an existence, mechachmatze yizbarach, from the wisdom of the Eibush, that amachaya akel, which is life to everything. If you say that creation is yesh meyesh, it doesn't have to be bechol rega verega. Since we hold, the Alter was discussed at the beginning of Shari Yichud V'Emunah, at the word of Yesh Meyayin, Hashem is renewing it every single second. So Yesh Meyayin becomes the foundation for Hashgacha Pratis. Yesh Meyayin becomes the foundation for, everything comes from the Eibishter, and therefore Yesh Meyayin becomes the foundation for Eid Avaya, resting on a person, B'chol Rega V'Rega. Therefore, Ukishi is Beinin Ha'adam. If we think about the fact that Hashem creates the world Yesh Meyayin, and therefore, this perfect Hashgacha Pratis in every prat, there's no such thing as something in this world which is, so to speak, by mistake. A person will think about this, the depth of his understanding, and he will visualize in his mind Yossi is being created. Turn to page 232, Dafkuf Tazayin on the base. From a non-existential state to an existential state, b'chol rega v'rega, every moment mamish. So the Alter Rebbe, how could it enter his mind that he has evil, or shum yisur, any kinds of suffering, even from children and parnasa and health and parnasa, or other yisur in the world. The Ein Sof of the Eibishter, which is the wisdom of Hashem, is the root of life and goodness and pleasure. Ruchni is the good pleasure. And this madreg of Einig is ha'eidin shalamayel elam, goes on the essence of pleasure, which is higher than elam haba, which is only the ha'ar of pleasure, zivter asam avidasa. And if we know that everything we're getting from the Eibishter, from Chaim and Tev and Einig, how could we complain? But the truth be told, Raket is only the Mesha Eini Musa, because they don't understand it. The person thinks that it's Ra Yisur, that's evil or it's suffering. But the truth is that evil never descends from heaven, and therefore Vahakel Tev, everything is good. Raket is only Sheini Musa, we can't understand it. Why can't we understand the Eibishter's goodness? Why do we view the Eibishter's understanding as being brutal? And the answer is very, very simple. That since it's Leged Leverav Tuva, Hashem is so great, and there's so much kindness. Sometimes Hashem gives us too much kindness, so it's like the Gemara says, the sun comes out without the shield, it's too much goodness, so it hurts. Too much kindness can sometimes come down in a painful way. Which is the primary point of Emunah, that everything comes from the Eibishter, and therefore everything is good. Why a man was created was to have Emunah in the Eibishter, laham, and to believe. There's no place where Hashem is not. And we always meet the face of the living God. Is this with the Gili Alakus through whatever? Therefore, when a person has betachan in the Eibishter, he always has might and gladness in his place. Because he has only goodness all day long. His life is only good. And therefore, if we have taka and muna and betachan that everything is from the Eibishter, so a person is always in a good mood. Because it's only good a whole day. So the key is, since we believe in Yesh Meyayin, so we believe in Ashavas B'chol Rega, so we believe in Hashgacha Pratis, and the Eibishter is a good God. And therefore, you cannot say that it's bad, because then you're saying that the Eibishter Chas v'Sholom is either not in control, or the Eibishter is doing a bad thing. I'm not sure which is worse. He says the Lashon, Shebeshvila Nivra Ha'adam. Why did the Eibishter make people? Why did the Eibishter make people? You know the reason why the Eibishter made people? Better. Why did the Eibishter make people? Depends which Mama you learn. One Mama says Teira Mitzvahs, and one says Mesiras Nefesh, the other says Nisyenis, one says Berurim. Why did the Eibishter make a world? Outside Amunah. Right? This is what it says in Tanya Perek Lamed Gimel. That you have Tayag Mitzvahs Nitnu Yisrael. Bocha Bakug V'Amida Nalachas. Why? Because Emunah means I'm connected to the Eibishter. Putting on tefillin is an act. Putting up mezuzah is an act. Connection to the Eibishter makes the tefillin a pnimius deka inyan. But ki'ilu ein le'ela mitzvah achas hi emunah levada. Yitaka has 613 mitzvahs, but the pnimius of every mitzvah is emunah, or in Tanya Perek Lamed Beis, the pnimius of every mitzvah is gili eid haneshama, which is the infant Havas Yisrael. You understand? So the Rebbe says, Yiddishkeit ultimately comes down to a munah, and therefore you're not allowed to have any doubts when it comes to the Meibishter.